people, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to go through the areas that I struggled with when studying for this exam. I know, I always talk about my weaknesses and my imperfections on the internet. No duh, I get ugly for these videos. That's how confident I am in myself. It's kind of fun to it's fun to tell people I actually know, oh, I do YouTube videos, and then they go look up my videos, and they're always like, that's not you, and I'm like, correct, it's not me. I actually got ugly for this video. But anyway, so we're gonna dive in here. These are some things that come up on the exam that can be sort of difficult for undergraduates / graduates new to the field to remember and understand. So that's why I'm going to go through them with you guys. And of course, they're mentioned on the exam multiple times. I'm trying to think because I want to upload the questions, to that $75 practice exam questions. To be perfectly honest with you guys, yes, these videos are not sponsored by the AMTA. Those people do not like me, and I'm sure once they find out about this, they're really not going to like me. But I don't really care because I'm making a difference. I say no to the man. I'm rock and roll. So the thing is that I paid $75. Okay, so back up a little bit. I have the practice questions right here. And I also paid, and this is the one that the school, everybody passes it down, in school. And then I also have the questions from the exam. From that $75 exam, I did pay $75 for it, and I'm more than happy to share it with you. It's pretty much the same questions, So I'm trying to think how to share that with people. Should I put it on Dropbox or should I put it on my Google Drive? I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, but I will share that information with you guys. It might get taken down if I put it on YouTube, so that's why I'm trying to figure out how to do it. Moving on. Like I told you, those people do not like me, and I don't really care because I'm making a difference. And these are some things that I sort of got a little mixed up in when I was studying and taking the exam. So first one, I have improvisation. So music therapy, improvisation is defined as a process where the client and therapist relate to each other. The client makes musical improvisation while singing or playing and creating a melody, rhythm, song, or instrumental piece. So whenever we think in improvisation, you're just creating it out of thin air, but the whole point is that in music therapy, improv, the client and the therapist relate to each other. So you got to keep that straight in your mind, because you're going to be reading oh, improvisation, oh, listening, oh, songwriting, oh, you're going to hear all of these things, read all these things during the exam, so you got to make sure everything's straight. So music therapy, improv, relate to each other. Then we have behavioral therapy. I separated here behavioral therapy, cognitive therapy, psychodynamic therapy. And you gotta remember, out of context, it's oh yeah, behavioral therapy, no duh, I don't need to go over it. But when you're going through the exam, you're gonna see all these different types of therapies. Just like I mentioned, all these different types of music therapy treatments. And then you're going to get all confused and in your head, and then the timer's ticking, and so it's just important to make sure you emphasize them before you get into that situation. Don't breeze over this. So behavioral therapy is an umbrella term. I think that's a very interesting way to put it. For types of therapy that treat mental disorders. This form of therapy, here we go, behavioral therapy seeks to identify and help change destructive or unhealthy behavior. So the point of behavioral therapy is to change behaviors, change the environment, change unhealthy behaviors. But behavioral therapy is an umbrella term. So again, we got to keep that straight when we're going through the exam. Cognitive therapy is a dysfunctional belief or dysfunctional thinking. I think I dated this guy who clearly had cognitive issues. And whenever I say that to people, they're always just like, so he had multiple personality disorder? And it's like, no, he just had a disturbed way of thinking, literally. But a lot of people don't understand what cognitive means. So cognitive therapy is when there's a disturbed or dysfunctional way of thinking. It leads to dysfunctional emotions and behaviors. Yes, this is what this person had. By changing their thoughts, people can change how they feel about what they do. So in therapy, in music therapy, a lot of times, like when I was working with acquired brain injury, a lot of times they had like a negative thought process, and that was considered like a cognitive behavioral therapy approach. They met to kind of change this negative thought process because it was causing dysfunctional behaviors and emotions. In terms of the guy I was dating, well, I tried, but I got real frustrated. I just wanted to shake his brain. Maybe that would make it work. But no. You know, it's so funny, like, shaken baby syndrome. You're like, how could somebody do that to a baby? And then here I am. I wanted to shake my ex so hard that his brain would click. I don't know. I have really low tolerance for individuals in my personal life. But like clients, if a client comes in with a dysfunctional behavior, I'm like all about it. I don't know what it is. Psychodynamic therapy, also known as insight-oriented therapy, focuses on unconscious processes as they manifest in a person's present behavior. The goal of psychodynamic therapy are that a client, this doesn't make sense, sorry. The goal of psychodynamic therapy is that a client is self-aware and understanding of the influence of the past on present behaviors. So we always think psychodynamic, psychoanalytical. We think of the lovely Freud. I love Freud, by the way. I have his dream book. But in terms of psychodynamic therapy, it's to make the client self-aware. This is such a struggle. Like, the client really needs to be in it because, like, people in regular life don't make themselves self-aware, you know what I mean? But it is more, I have written here a more of a short-term approach because, like, at my facility, it was used short-term, and it was more of a, like, they were clinically diagnosed with moderate brain injury, so it was like you had to make sure that they were self-aware in a lot of different aspects. But again, it really depends on the facility. Psychoanalytic, this is Sigmund Freud. I cannot believe he was like 100 years older than like my grandparents. That's crazy. Anyway, he believed that people could be cured by making conscious of their unconscious thoughts, motivations, and gain insight. He's not wrong. I'll explain that in a second. The aim to psychoanalytic therapy is to release repressed emotions and experiences to make the unconscious conscious. And I wrote here long term. He's not wrong because this is off topic. But in my finance course, we go through neuro finance. Some people call it financial neurology. I don't know. It's a new term, but the point is that they take psychological components and apply it to investment decisions. And this was one of them that we actually did. So you use so a lot of people who invest in money, they have overconfidence and they have loss aversion, and they these feelings and these decisions come across through those particular instances, but it's often unconscious. So the individual who's overconfident, the individual who is loss averse, doesn't necessarily realize it in the moment. So it's an unconscious behavior. And then if they're a CEO of a company, it's very important to make those ideas aware, make them conscious, so then that way personal biases doesn't get in the way of a corporate financial decision. the point that I'm trying to make is that in that situation, it works. Making your unconscious conscious for the greater good of the company is appropriate. In therapy, sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's not, in terms of who you work with. As a music therapist, I feel like a lot of times we followed more of the behavioral cognitive approach than the psychodynamic psychoanalytic approach, to be honest, just based on like where I worked. Now, there is a mental hospital, well, a mental facility. They do research, they don't just treat patients, but like there is one not too far from here. And then they have a very Freudian outlook on therapy. So again, it really depends on the facility. It depends on the clients. It depends on, what the approach is going to be moving forward. But you do have to determine the difference. So psychodynamic is the insight-oriented therapy, self-awareness. So think like dating, because I don't know, a lot of people I dated were not self-aware. And then psychoanalytic is to make unconscious conscious thoughts. So think of the corporate finance story. I don't know, maybe that corporate finance story went over your head. This is how my brain works. Moving forward, so we have holistic. Holistic and humanistic people often get mixed up at the undergraduate level. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's it. It's just the way that material is taught sometimes. So we have holistic medicine is a form of healing, considers the whole person, body, mind, spirit. So like now every physician sort of practices this way, but this is really like in Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine, they see the person as a whole. Chiropractors also see someone as a whole. I remember when I went to the Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine, he often used to ask me questions about like my personal life in addition to the physical assessment. And then same when I went to the chiropractor, asked about like daily life, how I go about sitting and standing and what shoes I wear and that kind of stuff. So like that's holistic, looking at somebody as a whole person. Obviously as a music therapist we do that. But like if you see humanistic, holistic, like every other question, it tends to get a little mixed up in your brain, especially when that clock is on the screen. So remember, holistic is healing a whole person. Think Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine, DO. And there's an O in holistic too, so there you go. Look at that! It talks about DOs. Why do I always like think of examples before the text says it? Existential psychotherapy. Existential, EXISTENTILAL, is a method of therapy that operates on the belief that inner conflict within a person is due to the individual's confrontation within the given existence. Has anyone ever heard of like an existential crisis, or like some people like to say midlife crisis, because even I can't say the word sometimes. Existential. But if you think about like a midlife crisis, so there's an inner conflict going on within the person, and it's due to their existence, and a lot of times you hear people say, oh, I regret not doing this in life. Oh, I regret like not traveling when I was younger. I always talk about this. I regret getting married young. I regret not going to school. I regret living in my parents' house, all that kind of stuff. So like the crisis occurs in those situations. Like I can't believe I'm 55 and I got married when I was 18. What a dumb decision. And then that's where it sort of stems from. And this happens with clients a lot, that like they sort of did something, or they regret to do something, or they have issues internally with what's going on, and it's sometimes it comes across as an existential crisis. Moving forward, so we have subjective and objective. I talk about this a lot. So subjective is personal, objective is measurable. So like my finance classes, my advanced algebra, that was objective, obviously. If you didn't understand how to do the math, well, then you failed the class. But my music therapy classes, on the other hand, they were subjective. If the professor didn't like me, then I failed the class. That's the way it works. Okay, so those are some areas. I also have inhibited. What did I write here? I can't even see it. Then I have cognitive behavioral therapy, thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Okay. Oh yeah, ambulation is walking. I don't know why I have that written down there. Now we're going to go over pretty darn briefly some speech disorders. So speech disorders, believe it or not, this is a concept that actually, like, a lot of speech therapists have issues learning this material when they're in undergrad. So they don't really learn it until they're in grad school. Why we have to know it at the undergraduate level, I have no idea. But that's the way it is, I guess. So I'm just going to go through. This was actually given to me by the speech therapy department at my old job. I asked them about this, and they gave me it. So shout out to them. I don't really like many things about my old job, so this was one of the things that I actually liked. Okay, so here they talk about aphasia, apraxia, and dysarthria. So the thing with speech disorders is that they kind of changed, like some of the words changed if you look it up on Google, sometimes it can come up with like different results because of like the prefixes. So we're going to talk about aphasia, and this is a cognitive linguistics. So here we go. This is how it was explained. So you think of an idea and you figure out what you want to say. You match the idea to words. So it's word finding. And then you decide on the sounds that are in that word. Then we have syntax or grammar, which is you match the language rules to when combining all the words. And then you pick the best situation to put this word into context. So, for example, let me think. After I'm done studying, I'm going to go to Dunkin' Donuts and get one of those refreshers. Actually, I'm going to do that, by the way. But that's something where it's like cognitive linguistics. So I think of an idea. So actually, I'm going to go and get one of those. I'm going to try it. We will see how it goes. I'm probably not going to like it. But I mentioned, after I finish studying, so that's the pragmatics. I'm studying right now. Pragmatics. I combined all the words together. Syntax. I'm going to go to Dunkin' and try the drink. And then we have deciding on what sounds are in the words. That one I don't necessarily think of, right? But like if you're trying to learn how to speak again, you're going to think about that. And then match the idea to the word. So word finding. I told you about Dunkin'. I told you about the drink. I told you after studying. and I thought of the idea. So I went backwards. But that's like aphasia. So if you cannot do that, that's the problem. And it kind of goes in here. This PowerPoint had a video, but yet again, I can't show you. So with cognitive logistics or aphasia, what ends up happening is that the damaged part of the brain, and it says here that it occurs, so it's showing the auditory cortex. So here's of course I have no idea where my little brain is. Give me 1 second. I found it. I gotta get this stuff together beforehand. Okay. So in this picture, we have the parietal lobe. Here we go. So we have hearing, rhythm, understanding dimensions, fingers, mouth. So it's like kind of, it's like right in here-ish. Right a little further up. Is the damage. Here we go. It says it on this side. Yeah, see, Broca area. Look, speech. Yeah, I was right. I just did it on the other side of the brain. So, and then we have aphasia is a neurological impairment where language impairment occurs in expression, comprehension, reading, and writing. And then it happens like right in here, speech. Now there are different types because like it does cover. Obviously you can see there's hearing, there's the Broca area. And then it even says that there's the Broca's, Wernicke's, anomic. I have that written on the other side. And then we have sensory, we have global, we have sensory, we have motor, we have conduction. And it all really occurs within like this general area. That's where the damage is, at least, when you have aphasia. And here it says signs and symptoms. So there's word finding. So you can't find the right word. I used to have clients be like, Duncan to get drink, like, you know, and they would like kind of do it that way, and to say, oh, I'm going to Dunkin' to get a drink, you know, but it was like they couldn't necessarily find the like right word to, they knew what they wanted to say, but they couldn't actually express it to some degree. And then, so it was like the word finding. I had a lot of clients with that. Speaking jargon, that used to happen a lot. Difficulty putting words in order. Yes, that happened too. Then we have agraphia, which is unable to write. That didn't happen in a lot of my clients, to be honest. They spoke in short phrases and they couldn't understand complex sentences. So if you ever said something that was like, I like the gym, but I rather go to the mall. They usually didn't. They got the gym, and that was it. You know, they couldn't understand the whole sentence. And definitely take longer to comprehend. I think as music therapists, we tend to forget that clients do take a long time to process. That's why you have to do an introduction song, a closing song, and that's why your interventions can't be too diverse, because it takes them a while to process the information. So that's aphasia. Aphasia is generally a blanket term, but the point that we're trying to make is that it is a neurological impairment, and it's often categorized by a language issue, okay? And sometimes a language issue could mean reading, writing, or expression. It doesn't necessarily have to be talking, okay? Moving on, we have motor planning. This is motor planning and programming is apraxia. This was actually on the board exam, ataxia, where it's like the fine motor movements, but apraxia, we just have a different first, so what is it called, prefix. Again, my parents do not speak English well, okay? So we have selecting a motor program, or generating a new motor program, deciding which muscle to use and in what order. So this happens when the brain is damaged according to the Broca area and the motor cortex. So the damage is happening actually a little higher up on the brain than what we saw before, right? So we were like right here, and then now we're kind of going into like the motor cortex part. So damage from this part of the brain results in motor speech disorder known as apraxia. I told you guys about ataxia, which is motor, right? Fine motor, but then apraxia, again, it's speech, but then we have, why is everyone being so noisy? Don't they know I'm trying to record a video? So we're up here, okay? Instead of being like down here in the speech area, we're kind of coming up. again, a lot of, I'm sorry, I'm just like thinking like, how and when can you damage these parts of the brain? Most of my clients were in car accidents, so that's how those areas became damaged. Oh my gosh, the brain is so sensitive, like don't mess, okay? Apraxia, here we go. It's a definition of motor planning and programming in the brain. There's two different types. So there's acquired, that's acquired brain injury. We had that. And then there's childhood apraxia, when there's no damage. Childhood apraxia is when you're born with no damage, yet you still have issues programming and planning. So signs entail voice errors, prolonged sounds, slow rate of sounds, disrupt frequency, increased rate of error when there's a complex word, and then speech sounds or better automated speech. So I've seen a lot, I really apologize. I've seen a lot of prolonged sound where people will be like, apple. You know, I saw that a lot with my clients. Oh my gosh. It's a lot. Working in healthcare is a lot, people. You better be ready for it if you're going to do this. Okay, last but certainly not least, we're going to talk about neuromotor execution or dysarthria. So here it even shows, this is kind of small, so I'm going to try to show you guys on my big brain. So we have the Wernicke area. So that it looks like this kind of injures most, because we have the cerebellum, and it like the picture kind of goes up like this. But let me read a little bit because the print's kind of hard to read. So dysarthria is combined name for a group of neurological disorders that demonstrate defects in strength, speed, range, steady tone, accuracy, and movements required to produce speech, which affect aspects of speech such as respiration, articulation. Signs and symptoms of dysarthria include short phrases, loudness decays, abnormal pitch levels, voice tremors, irregularity, slowed speech, reduced stress, weaknesses in face and mouth. So yeah, so in regards, again, this is a large component, but yeah, and even in the picture, it's showing like pretty much most of the brain, especially on the speech side. I had a client with dysarthria, and she used to go, water, like, you know, and instead of saying water, she used to like do different, like she'd say it really quietly, water, then she'd announce like the first part of the word, water, and then she'd announce like the last part of the word, water, you know, and then sometimes she would even be like, water, you know, so like, it was like her, it was kind of all over the place, just like the way, it wasn't necessarily what she said, it was more how she said it, but people are, like, everybody's a little bit different. Each disorder affects people differently. So overall, what we're going to try, what I'm going to sum up here is aphasia is the general speech disorder that everybody thinks of, okay, where you can't speak. It's difficult to understand sometimes. It's difficult to say a full sentence. So that's aphasia. Apraxia is when the motor cortex is damaged. So it's hard to kind of plan and prep what you want to say. And then we have dysarthria, where it's more of not necessarily what you say, but more how you say it for the most part. And this is just really general and really basic, but this is what you're going to need to know for the exam. They're not going to go into it that much. What they're going to say is like a client with aphasia, a client with dysphagia, a client with apraxia. And then you're going to have to know, like, they're not going to ask you what does apraxia mean. You know, they're just going to throw it into a scenario. So that's why, and all of these terms that I just went over with you guys, they're just going to be thrown in there. Oh, like, how do you treat a client through the behavioral therapy method? You know, how do you treat a client with dysphagia who's going through an existential crisis? You know, so they're going to throw the words in there. So that's why it's important to separate them out and understand what they actually mean. Okay? Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you guys later. Bye!